Charles Thomas Studd, better known by the name C.T. Studd, was one of the most influential missionaries the cause of Christ has ever seen, serving the Lord zealously, first in China, then later in India, and finally in Africa. He also spent 2 years traveling in America, urging young people to go to the mission field. C.T. Studd was born in England in 1860. His father, Edward Studd, had become very wealthy farming in India, and he was living a very comfortable lifestyle in London when he heard D.L. Moody preach, and he got saved. Charles was in college when his dad got saved, and he couldn't believe the extreme changes in his lifestyle and his priorities. Charles' father would live 2 more years after he got saved, and he devoted all of his energy to making sure everybody he knew had heard the gospel. His greatest burden, though, was that all 3 of his sons received Christ. And though they initially resisted, after a year or so, all 3 of his boys got saved. Charles describes the moment when at 18 years old, he finally believed on Jesus. I knew then what it was to be born again, and the Bible, which had been so dry to me before, became everything. Charles lived the first 6 years of his Christian life as a worldly Christian. He had become an excellent cricket player by the time he was 16, and at 19 he was the captain of his college cricket team, a celebrity throughout England, known as the nation's most outstanding player. Charles said that during that time, instead of going and telling others of the love of Christ, I was selfish and kept the knowledge to myself. The result was that gradually my love began to grow cold, and the love of the world began to come in. I spent 6 years in that unhappy, backslidden state. But then in his early 20s, Charles heard D.L. Moody preach, and it lit a flame in his soul to reach people with the gospel. He said, I cannot tell you what joy it gave me to bring the first soul to the Lord Jesus Christ. I have tasted almost all the pleasures that this world can give, but those pleasures were as nothing compared to the joy that the saving of that one soul gave me. Soon after that, Charles heard Hudson Taylor speak, and he surrendered his life to go to China as a missionary. He and 6 other Cambridge University students set out for China together, becoming known as the Cambridge 7. The news of this popular athlete going to the mission field caused quite a stir in England, and Charles' story of leaving sports to serve the Lord in China became so well known that 25 years later, when the 12-volume series The Fundamentals was published, C.T. Studd was asked to submit his testimony to be printed in Volume 3. Charles' father had willed an inheritance of $125,000 to be given to him when he turned 25. Charles decided to keep only what he needed to live and give the rest to gospel-preaching ministries, including D.L. Moody's Crusades, George Mueller's orphanages, and the Salvation Army. Charles met an Irish missionary named Priscilla in China, and they were married and had 4 daughters. In 1894, after nearly 10 years in China, illness forced Charles and Priscilla to return to England. When his health began to improve, C.T. Studd traveled to America and spoke at universities on behalf of the Student Volunteer Movement for Foreign Missions, urging students to surrender their lives to the Lord's work. In 1900, C.T. Studd and his family moved to India, where he pastored a church for 6 years. Then, in 1908, he felt God calling him to go to the Congo in Africa, which had not been reached with the gospel. The mission board refused to support him, so he went in faith that the Lord had called him. He told the board, Gentlemen, God has called me to go, and I will go. I will blaze the trail, though my grave may only become a stepping stone that younger men may follow. At 53 years of age, C.T. Studd left his wife and daughters in England and went to the Congo with a younger missionary named Alfred Buxton, who would later become his son-in-law. They established the Heart of Africa Mission, which was eventually renamed the World Evangelization Crusade. The 2 men planted 4 mission stations, reaching 8 tribes. C.T. Studd lived and served in the Congo until his death in 1931. Late in life, he wrote, My only joys are that when God has given me a work to do, I have not refused it. He died in the mission field in Africa when he was 71. Another son-in-law, Norman Grubb, carried on the work of the Worldwide Evangelization Crusade. which has since sent thousands of missionaries to over 80 countries. Norman Grubb also wrote C.T. Studd's biography, C.T. Studd, Cricketer and Pioneer. C.T. Studd made numerous statements that have become very well known to believers. If Christ be God and died for me, then no sacrifice can be too great for me to make for him. Some wish to live within the sound of church or chapel bell. I want to run a rescue shop within a yard of hell. Christ wants not nibblers of the possible, but grabbers of the impossible. And only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Christian, give your life to the cause of the gospel. Stay the course.